basketball game is played. So you have a couple of different people. So we have number 50 over here. Okay, and we have number 0, which you can't see him because he's tiny. He's right behind him. He's helping. And then we have number 10 over here. So number 10 is programmed. And when I say programmed, like conditioned, like, we're used to certain things. If I say up, you say, right? How many of you said down, right? So he's conditioned to continue in the win-lose. So for his world, this kid over here, win-lose means my team wins, the other team loses. So my job is to throw the ball into the basket. There's nothing wrong about it. There's nothing right about it. I don't really live in the world of right and wrong because right and wrong is just a perspective, and that doesn't benefit me or help me connect to other human beings. So watch what happens. First of all, we're going to see number 10 get the basketball and do what he's conditioned, programmed to do, get a basket to win. So see, right off the bat, I didn't know these videos would pop up. So right off the bat, number 50 tries to help number 0. It doesn't work. Number 10 goes, grabs the basket, doesn't even pay attention that 50 is trying to help 0. And what he does is he just goes for the basketball and immediately goes for the same exact thing, right stuck in his program. I need to win. Other team needs to lose. I have to get points into the basket. Now watch number 10 as number 50 is helping number 0 try to get the ball into the basket. Steve's all ready. You see how happy that kid was? That, to me, is creating a win-win environment. More importantly to number 50 was to help number 0 get the ball in. Now, if the number 10 would have gotten the ball into the hoop, it would have gotten 2 points. Everybody would have been like, yay, whatever, continuous, like whoop-de-doo. There's another 20, 30 points happening. Notice how the crowd responded when number 0 got the ball. Notice how number 0 felt, how excited he was, the emotions that were made connecting with him. So that's the world that I invite you to consider playing in. Win-win versus win-lose. When I work in early childhood, my specialty is early childhood and elementary school education. When I work in early childhood, I see teachers, even teachers now, they say to kids, when a kid asks you a question, it's like, I need help with this. I don't understand this. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Some kids are inquisitive. Some kids, especially that are neurodiverse, ask more questions because their processing speed and power are so much more higher up than other people. And when you have a teacher go, you get what you get and you don't get upset, or you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. That's win-lose. That's the teacher saying words to a child that aren't going to benefit the child. And so the child loses and the teacher wins. Why? Because the teacher feels like he or she is right. How many of you like to be wrong? Right? How many of you like to be right? Raise your hand. Like, how many people raised their hands? I didn't even say about what. It's just a human behavior that we want to be right about things, if that makes sense, okay? So she feels right. The child is diminished. She wins. The child loses. Another lose-win situation, or win-lose, is a child displays a behavior. The teacher responds in a way that's not so much loving. Like, I've seen kids go up to teachers and go, I don't love you. And the teacher goes, oh my God, how can you say that? Blah, blah. And the kid goes, oh, wow, like my 5th grade brother told me that would work, and it did. I'm going to remember this for later. And that's the teacher losing because she responds in a way that reinforces the behavior, which is pretty much like this, like, it's an easy button. People say that we have buttons that push. We as humans create buttons for other people based on the way that we respond to what the person does or says. And then that button appears on our head, and that child, that adult goes, oh, this is a button I can push on you. And then we walk around in life like this. This is my button. You better not push it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then somebody goes like this, and then we freak out and we get upset when they push our button that we created and put right on our forehead. Does that make sense? See, this is going to be a conversation of responsibility and power. And responsibility and power means how much responsibility we take for our life is how much power we have. Like when I talk to teachers about behavior, if you can pretend like your classroom is the classroom, like the house in the movie Up with all the balloons, and you can't reach out to a principal, you can't reach out to the guidance counselor, you can't reach out to the bullying specialist, it's just you have to take care of everything in your classroom. That right there, you have all the responsibility and you have all the power. A win-win environment, a win-win situation is an environment where we can create loving, is it, how do I stop this? Is an environment where we create a loving and beautiful area that we are in, okay? So how do we take actions to have a win-win culture? Great question. So that I asked myself in my mind. One thing is moving your mind. Now, we've been taught to believe that our decision maker is the brain and that's it. And what happens is we have other decision makers in our body. And where this kind of came up for me when I was learning martial arts. So when I was 12 to 17 years old, I took Taekwondo. When I went to college, I met my first Kung Fu instructor. And my Kung Fu instructor, he was half my size. And I have this ego. I'm a big guy. I'm a pro wrestler, this and that. Like, what can you possibly teach me? So what he does is we start having conversation. He goes, okay, now I want you to push me. I want you to move me. And I'm like, okay, so that's fine. So what do? I take one hand, I put it on his shoulder and I push him and he goes off balance and he moves about 2 feet, barely even move. He said, no problem. Now I'm going to do something different. He goes like this. And he goes, now try. So I take my hand, I put it on his shoulder, I can't move him. I take my other hand, I put it on his shoulder and his chest area, I can't move him. I shift my 300-pound frame into him, and I'm trying to push this guy that's barely 5'6", 170 pounds, and I couldn't move him. And what he told me was, the reason why you couldn't move me is because I put my mind in my foot. And I went, oh, and I have no idea what he's talking about because it's more important for me to look good as opposed to what do you mean explain because I'm 19. Now I understand as I'm learning about inner child work, as I'm learning about psychology, as I'm learning about all the different systems in our body, we actually have multiple places that we can make decisions from. Like how many of you have ever had a situation where all of a sudden somebody just drives quickly in front of you and then you get surprised because maybe you weren't paying attention, maybe you're on your phone, maybe you were looking another direction, whatever it is, you know, let's be responsible. We're not always looking straight when we're driving. So the person drives quickly in front of us. So our mind, if it's in our brain, which it is most of the time, the brain and the mind work together. The brain goes, oh, that person cut you off. That person did this to whatever. So then if we respond with a decision with our mind in our brain, we sometimes take actions that don't benefit us. How many times have you seen somebody, you're driving with somebody and all of a sudden somebody cuts them off and their idea in their head is to drive right up to the person's bumper as close as possible to show them that they almost got in an accident by almost getting into an accident. Like, have you seen people aggressively drive just because we're stuck making decisions in our mind, in our brain where our mind is. But if you drop into your heart, which by the way, there's a Dr. Andrew Armour, University of Montreal in 1991, he discovered that the heart has its own functional heart brain, and it actually sends more stimulus and more information from the heart to the brain than the brain does to the heart. So there's a whole nother system in here. If you drop down for one moment into your heart and then ask your heart what decision you can make. Think about this. Somebody cuts you off, they drive quickly, you take an action because your brain says they offended you, they cut you off, they did this, all this stuff. Because as humans, we've been taught to make things about us. You know, some of you go outside when it rains, you're fine. Some of you, when you go outside, it's raining on you, like the clouds chose you. That's the way that we respond because that's how we've been brought up sometimes. That makes sense? So now the person drives quickly in front of you. Instead of taking that action that could be detrimental, you could get to a car accident. I offer you drop into your heart and think. And all of a sudden, if you drop into your heart goes, they may have an emergency. Their kid might have fallen off the jungle gym. They might have broken their arm. Their wife might have had their water break and they have to get there. I hope they get there safely, if that makes sense. So I offer you to create a win-win environment. Next time you feel like you have to make a decision because something happens, I offer you to stop for a second, consider taking a breath, and I'm going to teach you a couple different breaths later on, and drop into your heart. A child says something to you, you can respond with your mind, or you can stop for a second and go, okay, what did this child really mean? What are they really trying to communicate to me? And then you respond to that way. Imagine if you can teach your kids, especially if there's situations with bullying or aggressive behaviors or code of conduct, infractions. Imagine if you can teach your kids, instead of responding immediately, consider dropping into your heart and making that decision. That's where self-regulation comes in. Other ways to have win-win cultures, changing our words. If I said to you, I understand where you're coming from, however, or I get what you're saying, but what's the next thing going to come out of my mouth? Is it going to be something that you're interested in, or is it something that you've already shut me off because I've already said but or however? Yeah, Miss Smith, I understand where you're coming from, but I understand where you're coming from, however. And all of a sudden, the parent across from you, the teacher across from you, the child across from you goes, oh, and immediately their wall of oppositional just comes right up. If I say up, you say. If I say left, you say. If I say stop, you say. So for all of you that said the opposite, congratulations. You all have oppositional defiance disorder. Give yourselves a round of applause. But think about it. If I said up, why didn't you say stairs? If I said left, why didn't you say handed? If I said stop, why didn't you also agree with me and say stop? Why didn't you say sign? Because as human beings, especially in this country, we're designed to be oppositional. You walk into a store and someone says, can I help you with something? What's your response? No, I'm good. Meanwhile, you have no idea where anything in the store is. It's amazing how we say no so quickly and we don't even realize we do it. So my request of you is, next time you're having a conversation with someone, only if you want it to be win-win. Like, I want you to get, you can totally live in a win-lose culture and have it happen. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing right about it. But if you're interested in creating a win-win school culture, a win-win school, a win-win classroom, consider shifting your words. If I say to you, I understand where you're coming from, but that's not our policy, that stops the other person from communicating. But if I say to you, I understand where you're coming from, and that's not our policy. I understand where you're coming. I get what you're saying, however, is different than I get what you're saying, and as soon as our school changes its policies, we can revisit this. I also use another 3 words that is huge, because there's going to be parents and teachers that come in and ask you questions and want you to have answers that you may not have the answers to, which is crazy, because you just don't have the answers sometimes. I don't know is a valid response. Might not be a valid response for the person asking you the question, but I don't know is a valid response. If they're putting the responsibility of you having the answer when you don't have the answer, that's their fault. That's their problem. But somehow they're putting the responsibility on you, because that's how we've been designed. Like I said, we have been designed to alleviate ourselves of responsibility, which we then alleviate ourselves of power, but we don't realize we're doing that. So if a parent comes up to you and says, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and that's not going to happen, you can say to the parent, no, we're not doing that. And then the parent gets upset because they think you're not wanting to do it. Or you can say, well, as soon as the state changes its policies on and whatever they're talking about, then we can revisit this conversation. So now the parent goes, oh, okay, so you can't do anything because your hands are tied by the state. Really, the only thing I can do is go and change legislature. And then it gets put back in their responsibility, if that makes sense. Right? Got it? Okay. So, and I'm also looking at the chats if anybody has any questions or comments or anything like that, and there'll be plenty of time for Q&A at the end. Another way to alleviate yourselves of a win-lose society is to really understand why it's important for us to be right. I mean, it's a basic human nature. How many of you like to be wrong? Raise your hand. How many of you like to be right? Raise your hand. I'm sure most people raise their hand. I didn't even say about what. Most people just put their hands up to be right. Why? Because that's how we're designed. That's how we're designed. It's just a system. Do you know why it's really important in reality, not in our brain? Because our brain and reality are 2 different things. Do you know why it's important in our brain for us to feel right? Because when we feel right, and we think we're right about something, our brain releases dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin, 4 chemicals into our body immediately. Literally, we are our own drug dealers and we're getting high on our own supply. It's insane. Think about this. Ready? I'm going to give you a perfect example so you can notice how well you feel. And by the way, I'm not making you happy. I'm not making you feel good. You are making you happy. You are making you feel good. Okay. Ready? Math problem. By the way, how many of you, when your voice in your head, yeah, that voice, the voice that's saying, what's he talking about? How many of you, the voice in your head is already saying, oh no, math problem, and you don't even know what it is? Like, we're already creating stories and worrying about things that 95% of the time won't even happen. That's just part of our system. That's just part of the computer. Ready? Math problem. Here we go. 5 plus 5. Who said 10? Good job. Give yourselves a round of applause. That's awesome. So now notice how you feel. Notice also that I got excited, but also how many of you, when I said you did a good job, your voice in your head kicked in and go and went, well, 5 plus 5 is easy. Everybody should know that. Why are you so happy? And then you shut off your own joy and happiness. Isn't it interesting how our mind works? So I offer you to catch yourself when you're having conversations and you catch yourself about to be right. One example of being right is just telling someone what to do. Telling somebody just, you should have done this, you should have done that, like all these things that are just being right about something instead of just letting it go. Ever hear that song, Let It Go? I'm sure you heard it a bunch of times. So consider that when you try to be right over somebody else, you're making them wrong. And what happens is the energetic connection that you have with that person is immediately severed. Consider, by the way, I'm not saying the truth. I'm not preaching. I'm not saying this is what's so. What's happening in reality is air is coming up through my body, out my diaphragm, up this esophagus, and then the air is getting converted with my vocal cords, and somehow sounds are coming out. That's all that's happening. Then what's happening is your mind is in your brain, and your brain is interpreting my words, giving the words meaning, and then responding and reacting in a microsecond. So you're making yourself feel good, not me, but we're not taught that way. One more thing I want to go over for a win-win culture, empatico.org. I work with an amazing man named Daniel Puder. He has his own 6 private schools down here in South Florida, ages 6 through 12. Very different than your typical school system. It's all about having a vision and a purpose for your life, understanding mentorship, creating resumes. I mean, you want a job, you're going for an interview, show up a half hour early, walk in, ask the person for a broom and start cleaning the place up and see how much you stand out in front of all the other people that are just applying. So him and I went to go meet this gentleman. Other name is Daniel. He's the CEO of Kind Bar. Kind Bar has a nonprofit program called empatico.org. If you go on that website, what it is, it's a pen pal classroom program, totally free. Right now, my understanding, it's only for elementary school and middle school. I don't know how it's going to be for high school, but I mean, keep up with it. You go on, you fill out information about your classroom like the teachers do it, and then you type in also what time of the day you want the program, and then the algorithm connects you with classrooms inside the country, outside of the country, and then you're guided by questions that the teacher asks the kids or the kids ask the kids back and forth. What kind of a world would it be if every kid had access to see other cultures and every kid had the opportunity, instead of the stories that they make up and the stories that have been made up by their parents and putting their parents' belief system on the kids, these kids now get to actually look at other kids and go, oh, wow, I've never seen somebody look like you. I've just seen videos, and actually you're connecting with another human being, and it's magical and it's amazing. So I offer you that just to go check that out. Check it out. Okay. So now we're going to talk about blind spots that really, I just want to check my time. Okay, cool. I got plenty of time. So blind spots are, how many of you have a car and automatically installed in your car, you have those little blind spot mirrors so that if they're in the car, or if not, you go to Pep Boys, you spend $2, they're little circles, you put it in the top right and the top left corner. These things exist for you while you're driving to really look and see before you can change lanes. Before these blind spot mirrors, you would have to take your eyes off the road, crank your neck, not just to this window, but actually look behind you while you're taking your eyes off the road, or to look this. That's insane. You're literally doing what you're not supposed to be doing. So these little blind spot mirrors allow you to go like this, and then you see the regular mirror, and then you see if there's somebody in your blind spot. Would you go into that lane without a blind spot checker? Probably not. Why everyone doesn't have this? Well, that's a blind spot for them. They don't even know it exists. Or they can make up a story in their mind, because our mind just likes to make up stories about, I don't need it. I don't have blind spots. I'm good to go. And then you go back to the automatic program of being right. So if I say up, you say down. If I say left, you say right. If I say stop, you say go. You're stuck in oppositional patterns. If you could just consider that being oppositional is not the only solution that you have, and it takes you to break your own pattern just automatically saying something. Another blind spot that we had, how many of you have ever created an expectation for another human being? Think about it. Okay, how many of you ever created expectation for your teachers? How many of you have created an expectation for your vice principals? How many of you have created an expectation for your superintendents? How many of you have created an expectation for the parents of your kids? Expectations, the way you really can figure out where the expectation is when you say the word should. So he should be blah, blah, blah. So that's creating an expectation. He should be respectful. She should be on time. He should do his homework. They should follow up with me. Okay. What's the common word? Should. Whenever you say the word, try this on. Whenever you say the word should, you are setting yourself up to get upset. The second you say he should be, just get. What you're doing is you're creating an expectation in your mind, which you won't share with the other person. Like, imagine creating an expectation for one person. Think about one person in your life right now that you have expectations for. He should be this way. She should be this way. Got it? Okay. Now, did you create the expectation, never share the expectation with them. So when they don't fulfill the expectation that they know nothing about because they didn't read your mind, who are we as humans programmed to get upset at? Them. Does that make sense? It absolutely doesn't. It's insane, because we've been taught to believe that how our mind says world should be is how it is. How many of you create an expectation when you're driving in the morning that you're going to get to school on time? If you live 20 minutes away, you leave 20 minutes away. And then if there's an accident, if there's traffic, how many of you are surprised that there's school buses in the morning? And then when you get stuck behind one, this and that, whatever. And then guess what? Now you have to make up 5 minutes because you left at the exact time, creating an expectation in your mind that there's going to be no traffic, no holds up, no nothing, this and that. The coffee line will go smooth. Then all of a sudden, because you know you're going to be 5 minutes late, you're going to start making rash and unintelligent driving decisions. Like next time, like imagine you're late now because the bus did 5 stops, then the bus turned. Now you see you start driving and the light up there turns yellow. If you were on time and you didn't have any other blockages, you'd slow down. But now what do? You maybe consider run the yellow, maybe the red, just because you didn't consider starting your day 15 minutes early, setting your alarm 15 minutes early, leaving for everywhere 15 minutes early. If something happens in life, you have a window. If you happen to get to school or get to wherever 15 minutes early, do a 5-minute meditation, message somebody, go inside that place and don't feel like you're rushed in. Have a conversation with someone. And all it takes is one little action. You don't need that extra 15 minutes of sleep. You really don't. You hit the snooze button how many times? Consider doing that, and your life will be different, I promise you, because you'll be getting to places early, and you're not going to be thinking about insane decisions to make when you're driving. So think about that. Let's go back. Think about that one person that you have an expectation for, right? Say their name, and then the word should. Say this out loud because I want you to feel how you feel. Okay, so think about the person you have an expectation for. Say their name and then should and whatever the expectation is. So, for example, my friend Andy should call me back when he says he's going to call me back. Okay, so think about your person, say the word should, and do the sentence how they should be in your mind. Ready, set, go. Okay, got it. How do you feel? Check in with yourself. Notice how you feel. Okay, interesting. Now, say the same exact sentence, take out the word should, put the word could in there. So Andy could be on time. So say the person's name, could, and then the same expectation, and notice how you feel. Go. Interesting. Do you feel the same way when you said should, or do you feel this differently? Do you like more when you felt the way you felt when you said should, or do you like more the way that you felt when you said could? See, how you feel is a difference. It's an impact. It's on you. How do you think the people in your life, how do you think that person feels knowing that they have to try to live up to an expectation that they don't even know about? They don't know why you're getting upset at them, and they have to try to read your mind to figure out why you're getting upset, and they did nothing wrong. All they did was what they do. So if you want to have access to happiness again, thank you. If you want to have access, yeah, Fatima, good for you. Could is better. By the way, I don't know if I said your name right. I don't know if I said your name wrong. I should get your name right will cause you upset. I could get your name right. Goes, yeah, I could. I mean, this is huge. This is huge. You spend most of your life creating expectations for other people, not telling them, and they don't know what to do, and then they get upset. How many teachers do you know that tell the kids the rules and how to behave in the beginning of the year, and then the week, 3 weeks go by, and the teachers go, well, they should remember. Especially when they come back from winter break and they come back from a week and a half of chaos. Well, they should remember. Okay, it's okay. My friends abroad pronounce it like this. I am okay. That's all. That's I appreciate that. Okay. So now here's one. Here's the blind spot of all blind spots. This is one that if you're really present and you get this, that's called a pattern throughout my behavior system. If you're really present, it'll blow your mind. So imagine. So I was working in a preschool, and there was a girl named Tammy who loved tattling. I mean, we have adults in our lives that love tattling because they get attention. So Tammy goes up to, I'm setting up my Yogurati class, and then Tammy goes up to the teacher and she goes, Billy called me a poopy head. And I mean, the kid's like 4 years old, whatever. So Billy called me a poopy head. Now, this teacher was present. What do I mean by that? She wasn't a teacher that would go, Billy, stop it, and then continue going on, whatever, like totally checked out. And by the way, if you have teachers that are checked out, those are the ones that would love to help you out with, because most of the time they just got checked out because of one thing. Maybe a parent says something to them. Maybe a child said something to them. They create an expectation that the parent shouldn't do that. The parent should be respectful, and then they just shut themselves down and they've been going on autopilot. So if you have concerns like that, definitely reach out to me, because I could totally have that person go back into their joy and their happiness if they choose to. That's the thing, if they choose to. So Tammy goes up to the teacher and goes, Billy called me a poopy head. And the other teacher that's present looks around and goes, Tammy, Billy's not here today. And Tammy's like, oh, and then Joey called me a poopy head. So the teacher, does her thing. She gets up. Her job is to handle the situation, teach empathy, understanding, create relationships, all that wonderful stuff. She goes over, takes Tammy over to Joey. Joey, Tammy said that you called her a poopy head. Tammy, tell Joey how he made you feel when he called you a poopy head. Tammy goes, I statements, because she's been programmed that way. I feel bad. I feel this. I feel that. Joey then goes into his automatic programming that we've trained kids to say, I'm sorry, and then make a sad face. And then all of a sudden everything's amazing, which it's not. The I'm sorry is as authentic as if you get pulled over by a cop and you're sorry. Okay. So it's like, these are not win-win conversations. These are win-win lose, stuck in programming, I'm sorry conversations. Doesn't benefit anybody. So then Tammy says to Joey, you made me mad. You made me feel bad, whatever it is. Okay, good. All the other kids in the environment, they hear this, they move on. 20 minutes later, Tammy wants more attention. Tammy goes to the teacher again. Jennifer said that I'm not invited to my own birthday party. And then the teacher's like, what? And then it's like, teacher's like, I didn't even get an invite either. I guess we're not going together. I'm just kidding. So then the teacher gets up, takes Tammy over to Jennifer. Tammy, tell Jennifer how she made you feel when she said she's not invited to your birthday party. Tammy goes into her programming. Now she's got all the attention. I felt bad. You made me feel sad. You made me feel this. Jennifer goes like this and goes, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, hold on. So I got to do the face. I'm sorry. And the teacher goes, okay, got it. And you're good to go. And Jennifer's like, really, you fell for this again? Whatever. What's the programming? If you sit down and think about this, what is the programming that the teacher is instilling into both of the kids and all the kids around? And it's programming that she was taught. It's programming you were taught. It's all over television. It's all over the media. It's all over movies. I'll repeat one more time because this is important. And your mind won't even let you access it because this program started when you were 2 years old and you probably don't even know it's running. Tammy, tell Joey how he made you feel when he called you a poopy head. Tammy, tell Jennifer how she made you feel when she said you're not invited to your own birthday party. What's the programming? Okay, what's the program? Let's see if anybody. So now, usually people start writing because I usually do like at 3, 4 hour, 6 hour trainings. We have more time. People start focusing on the I'm sorry. We're training kids to say I'm sorry. It's not real. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's one part of it. Okay. Think about this. Tammy, tell Joey how he made you feel. Tammy's getting programmed. Joey can make you feel a certain way. Joey gets programmed. I have power to make other people feel this way. All the other kids get this information. 20 minutes later, Jennifer, Tammy, tell Jennifer. Tammy gets trained, programmed, brainwashed. It's all this conditioned, whatever word you want to say. Tammy gets conditioned. And then Jennifer goes, wow, I have power over Tammy. I can make her mad, make her sad. Tammy gets taught that Jennifer has power over her and all the other kids. And it's all a lie. It's a sad lie. It's a sad, dangerous, upsetting, traumatic lie. Because our lives, including myself, until I did a seminar called the Landmark Forum in 2001 that blew my mind into what reality and the mind and the brain really is. We've all been trained to believe other people can make you feel a certain way. You have said, he made me mad, she made me jealous. You have said, he upset me, he did this, she did that. In reality, that never happened. And I get this is conflicting. And I'm sure somebody probably might have even logged off right now because their whole subconscious has no interest in this conversation. But if you want a win-win environment and you really want to shift your entire district, let's start teaching kids that nobody can make them feel any way. They make them feel a certain way. If I said words to you that were racist, offending, prejudiced, stereotypical, what would happen is you would get upset and blame me because you're not taught that what really happens is I say words, which are letters, which are sounds. Words are sounds, nothing different. I say sounds. Your brain hears the sounds through your ears. Your brain interprets the sounds, gives the sounds a meaning, and then responds and reacts to them in a microsecond. And because you don't even realize that this is the computing power of this super incredible computer, you're automatically taught to believe the only way I get my joy and happiness back is externally. You said this, you say you're sorry. You say this, you have to do this. You owe me this. And here's the part. And listen, this is not a conversation just to take on and be with. This is a conversation for your subconscious to start. So in 3, 4, 5 years, when you're upset about a situation, all of a sudden your subconscious goes, remember that one conversation? Okay, got it. Yeah, see that? Okay, so why are you making yourself mad? Why are you making yourself sad? Why are you making yourself upset? I do assembly. I have an assembly program. It's a team building assembly program where I have conversations with kids, and the conversations with the kids is, it's like I say, okay, we talk about this, we talk about expectation stuff in the mind. I go, somebody tell me a problem. Like I like to educe, EDUCE, to pull out, the draw from. We've been spending way too much time in this industrialized, education system, educating, programming, take tests, take notes, do this, take another test, all this stuff. Okay, I educe, I pull out. So I asked this girl, well, tell me a problem. She's like, I don't like it. It makes me upset when this girl sits at my lunch table. I'm like, okay, got it. So like, say a little more. Well, it gets me upset when she sits. I told her I don't want her to sit. She has friends, but so I'm like, it meaning what? Like you're talking about like that clown, like from the movie It? She's like, no, that's silly. I'm like, okay. So what if we try to say the same words, change them a little to be a little more responsible and powerful? Because I talk about responsibility and having power. So then she sits there, she goes, she makes me mad when she sits at my table, and I'm just like, okay, so is she like an X-Men? Is she like an Avenger? Does she have superpowers where she can get into your mind and change? The girl looks at me like, no, that's silly. I'm like, okay. So, and the kids are starting to move, and the popcorn's starting to kind of simmer a little bit, and then all of a sudden she's like, I'm like, well, how else can you be responsible? How else can you be powerful so that the words that you say help you? And she goes like this. She goes, and that's it. And that's what I love. I love the aha, when the neurons connect and something makes sense. That's my joy. And she goes, I make me upset when she sits at my table. And then like 6 kids are around, because I do my assemblies in like a big circle, not like sitting crisscross applesauce on the ground. It was like pop, pop, pop. And some kids like, what? He's like, I've been making myself upset this whole time. I'm like, yeah, but it's okay, because nobody told you, because you don't know how great and how smart your supercomputer is. So now next time you get upset, you did that to yourself. If you want to be upset, be upset. It's okay. That's a thing that we also haven't really focused on when it comes to like reality. Like as a guy, I was taught growing up, you're allowed to be angry, but you're not allowed to be sad, or you're a blank, 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 blank. My sister was taught you're allowed to be sad, but if you're angry, then you're hysterical, and that's not allowed. And this is all taught by people who don't know about emotions and how to express them. And what I've been finding in life and what people are discovering, you know what? Any way you feel is okay. If you tell someone, stop crying, you shouldn't be this, you shouldn't be that, you're creating an expectation for them on how they're supposed to be. If you're sad, it's okay. If you're mad, it's okay. If you're frustrated, it's okay. If you're happy, it's okay. If you're scared, it's okay. You breathe through these emotions because we're emotional creatures. We're emotional human beings. And after you breathe through it, you work through it. But when someone's telling you, don't do this, don't do that, it's not okay for you to feel this way, it's not okay for you, they're literally going against your reality. So just consider moving on. No one can make you feel any way. You get to do that. All right. And let me just check for time. 3:38. Tremendous. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over different types of breathing for self-regulation. As we're getting more into the world of social emotional learning, as we're getting more into the world of understanding the body, the mind. My background was, I didn't even start working in education until like literally the day after I did that seminar, where I dropped out of college and I went to my martial art instructor who was training me to be a better fighter. And I said, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. I've totally reset myself based on this program. My past is complete. I want to teach kids karate. Okay, my parents are losing their mind because they're stuck in the program of be a manager, work for a place, have a job, have a career, do this, do that, retire, and then have fun. They're stuck in that program. Totally fine. If it works for them, that's great. So let's get into the breathing. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something called big belly breathing. Okay. So when you do big belly breathing, it's intentional breathing from your stomach. So everybody take one hand, put it on your chest collarbone area. Other hand, put it on your belly. Okay. Now, when I say go, I offer you just to close your eyes and just take 3 breaths. And notice, am I breathing in and out more with my chest and shoulders? Am I breathing in and out more with my my belly type thing? Okay, so you get to do this. By the way, you don't have to do this. I could even go a little psychology. You're not allowed to do this. right? How many of you have teachers that still tell kids not to do something and they're still genuinely surprised that the kids do it, especially the alphas, the neurodiverse, the kids with the that are staring out the windows and focusing on their vision for their life. They're the next Elon Musk. They're the next Jim Carrey. They're the next Dave Chappelle. They're the next whatever because they're focused. Those are the alphas. It's a whole different way on how to work with those kids so they change their behaviors because they want to, and then they become the alphas of the classroom. So one teacher now has two co-teachers. Whole different conversation. So big belly breathing, one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest area. And just, I invite you, take 3 breaths. If you want to close your eyes, you can get a better sense. 3 breaths, ready, set, go. Okay, now before I ask you where you felt more of your breathing, how many of you just feel the slightest bit calmer? How many of you feel just a little bit different, even 1%? If you feel this way now, you can take these breaths whenever you want. They're free. They figured out a way how to charge us for water. They haven't figured out a way yet how to charge us for air. So taking these breaths is amazing. I mean, obviously you've seen studies of yoga and meditation in schools, and then the bullying goes down, the aggressive behaviors go down, the joy goes up. Everybody knows that. We've seen the studies, we've seen the research. This is an opportunity just to do that. Imagine if in your morning announcements, right before you're done, everybody close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. And then you say something like, think of somebody that you'd like to help today. You get them out of their selfishness, which is the programming. Thank you. And then you go there. Okay. So 3:52 is when I wrap up, right? Just making sure. Okay, I got 10 minutes. Yay. So how many of you felt like you were breathing in more with your chest area, chest, shoulders? Okay, got it. How many of you felt like you're breathing more with your belly? Okay. How many of you felt like your combination, you're like, okay, you're not hyperventilating, I'm just teasing. But how many of you felt like there was a difference in your breathing? Like some is breathing chest and shoulders, some is belly. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is we're actually going to do intentional belly breathing. So now I knew this workshop, we set it up like maybe 3-4 months ago when I was ripped. With my 6-pack and my chiseled jaw, but I really wanted to have you get a good visual aid on what big belly breathing is. So that's when I'm like, oh, this workshop, I got to do it. So I started, with the ice cream and the pizza and the empanadas and the mangoes and anybody buying this at all? No, I didn't think. Okay, fine, whatever. So I'm just teasing. So have your hands on your belly. Now you have stomach muscles. They may be buried underneath a nice wall of jiggly goodness underneath, but you do have them. If you didn't have them, then you'd be walking around like this because your stomach muscles wouldn't be there to pull you up. That's like not having a bicep muscle, means your arm would be locked out straight because the tricep would be the only thing that's activated. Okay, so 2 hands on your belly, make a big belly breath in, push your stomach out, down a little bit lower now. Push your stomach out and take a big belly breath in. Breathe in. And push your stomach out, breathe in a little more. And now breathe out. When you breathe out, pull your stomach in, kind of like when you walk out of the shower after not working out, or when you go on the beach for the first time and you didn't. Anyway, okay, this is my stuff. All right, so ready? Breathe in, make your belly big. All right, and breathe out, make your belly small. One more time, breathe in, make your belly big. Breathe out, make your belly small. Take 2 more for yourself. Big belly breath in, make your belly as big as you can. And breathe out, make your belly small. If you got a drink, grab a drink. If you don't, get a drink. Okay, I'm a little schwitzing. Okay, next kind of breath work, buddy breathing. This is amazing. How many of you, if you're having an argument or a conversation with your significant other, they look at you and they say, honey, relax. And of course you look at them and go, oh, you're right. Okay. And they say, honey, take a breath. And you go, oh, okay. You're right. Thank you. Now I feel better. Let's keep communicating. No, it's not how it works. Humans don't want to be told what to do. So, like, for example, does anybody here have any desire to raise both your hands in the air? Cool. From this point on, you're not allowed to because I said so. What you thinking about? I can't even see you. I guarantee people put their hands up in the air. Then other people probably like went like this and they put their hand through like that. So they're like the alpha ones that kind of like do it on the down low, but you still put your hands up and inside your body. You go, I put my hands up. I did what he told me not to do. And then all of a sudden, boom, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphin, serotonin, all that stuff starts dumping in. Awesome, the way that we're designed. So buddy breathing is like this, okay? You teach one of your alpha boys or your alpha girls, whatever, because I give responsibilities to kids that are things that other kids can't do. So even if it's like there's a board of chores, there's a board of this or that, or a Velcro board or whatever, like none of that. You make up this whole entire thing. So I have my kids be the buddy breathers. Why? Because most of the time, my alpha boy, my alpha girl, they're the ones that are quicker, sharper, smarter, more emotional, more sensitive, more in tune to energy. And by the way, if you want to have an amazing conversation about energy, and look up indigo children, look up crystal children, and have a conversation with me about those kids. Ever see those kids with the sparkly blue eyes and the little dots? There's a reason why they're here. Anyway, moving on from the weird stuff. Buddy breathing. What you do is you teach your kids and you model it. So you see a child that's upset, okay? And then what you do is you go over to the child. You don't say stop breathing, stop doing this, stop doing that, all that stuff. You just put your hand on the child's shoulder. Okay, full arm distance to give them their space. You put your hand on the child's shoulder and you say, I'm going to breathe with you. You don't tell the child to breathe. To breathe, no. So you put your hand on the shoulder, you tell the child to breathe with you, and then you start going. And when I've done this with my kids, what I see is the alpha goes over and puts their hand on the kid's shoulder. The other kid is like, they're feeling it. They're still feeling their emotions. By the way, it's okay to feel the way that you feel. So your hands are on the shoulder, and all of a sudden I see like the alpha is going, and the kid's going, but after 3 or 4 breaths that the other kid takes, all I hear is, and they look at each other. It's like, bro, good looking out. And then they're off. I let the kids handle that because they're really good at it. And then the last breathing that I'm going to go over is called cold breathing. So you take your tongue, because this tricks the body into calming yourself down. You take your tongue, you put it behind the back of your bottom teeth. So everybody go like this. Take your tongue, put it behind the back of your bottom teeth like this. Okay. So yeah, here. All right. So we're going to do what's called the Princess Bride test. So take your tongue, put it on the back of your bottom teeth. Awesome. Now, everybody repeat after me. Ready? Okay, here we go. Everybody say, WAV. Good. True WAV is a magical experience. Okay, everybody, here's the test. Everybody say, Princess Buttercup. Okay, so if you pass the Princess Bride test, you know how to do this. If you don't know what Princess Bride is, definitely that should be required video for, I think, everybody. Okay, so now we take our tongue, we put it behind the back of our bottom teeth like this. And then what we do is we breathe in with our mouth. Go. Breathe out. Breathe out, nose or mouth, whatever you want. Breathe in with your mouth. Tongue behind the back of your bottom teeth. Breathe out. How many of you feel a cooling sensation going over your tongue? Yeah. So that cooling sensation tricks the body into calming down. Okay. So this is another way to teach your kids 3 different types of breathing so that they can self-regulate. What if you had this as a kid? What if all the upsets you've had in your life, you were taught, number 1, you created your upset. Number 2, people are going to be the way that they are instead of the way that they should be in your mind. What if you learn different ways to breathe and regulate your body? Because we have what if you learned, instead of making decisions, think about a decision that you made in your life, maybe towards somebody, a platonic friend, a relative, a friend, a relationship, and remember a time in your life that what if when they said something, instead of you reacting and being right and saying the things that you know would trigger them and upset them because you know them, what if you just didn't say that one thing and just let it go? What if you just realized they're going to be the way that they are? What if instead of saying, but you should be this way, you can say, and I wonder if you could be this way. And none of this is easy. This is hard. This is training. It's like going to the gym and getting a workout session with The Rock and learning everything. And you're going to get your mind and your heart and your body and your soul strong. And then you never go to the gym again. You go, I'll remember it. If that makes sense. All right. So just going to give you a couple of resources. So I use a platform called KiwiLive.com. KiwiLive.com, Kiwi like the fruit, live, like I want to be alive and I am alive. How many people are alive, but they're not living? Interesting. So you go to KiwiLive.com, it asks you for a word. My keyword is respect. How do you spell respect? Okay, yeah, you have to sing it while you're typing or it doesn't work. Okay, my website is right there. If you have any questions, I'm screen sharing. Oh yeah, okay, cool. And then over here, my YouTube channel, all the way on the bottom, Ron Schwalees, youtube.com for all different videos, assembly program clips, all that stuff. My whole world is about just being value. Seriously, reach out to me. If you have one question about one thing, I'm not going to bill you. Ask me questions. If I can make one difference and one shift in you that can shift an entire school, that can shift an entire district, then it's just one more little, happy reinforced dopamine rush for me. Okay, cool. So, so I appreciate everybody coming on board. Look, if it was easy, instead of doing all this work and all this feeling, if this was easy for me to just wipe your mind and reprogram you, that would be fine. But the technology doesn't exist for me just to mind wipe you. Or, actually, give me 1 second. Okay. So if you all can just look at this right over here. Tremendous. Just pay attention. Okay, awesome. You are all powerful, responsible humans. Nobody can make you mad. You get to powerfully choose to get mad, sad, happy, or joyous. Eliminating should from your life and eliminating expectations from this point on will lead to happiness and could lead to win-win environments. I appreciate you breathing with me. I appreciate you typing with me. I'm going to check out the chat and see if I can support and help and give value to anybody else. As one of my favorite principals, Mr. Belding over there, I love him to death. I appreciate you, and I hope that you got some value from this and you share this with your world. All righty. How'd I do on time? Let me see. I didn't get the go ahead. The 2:53. Woohoo! All right, or 3:53. All right, cool. Hi, Ron. Fatima asks how to know which one is age-appropriate breathing exercise we can do with students. Try everything. Try the big belly. I have big belly breathing. If you go on my YouTube channel, there's all different clips of me doing keynotes and trainings and assembly. You can do a search, look for fire breathing. Fire breathing is when you take your hand over your nose and you're just breathing in and out with your mouth. You're going, and it creates energy, it burns off energy. And if there's a child in the classroom that was like me, that fidgets, moves around, you don't have any ergonomic desk, you don't have a bouncy ball for them to move, and all the other stimulus is just affecting, doing fire breathing will generate some energy and then calm them down for a little bit. In addition to that, dynamic tension is also good, where you have the kids just squeeze their arms, squeeze their legs, squeeze their body, and then breathe, and it burns off energy. And it uses the energy productive, and it also makes them stronger in the process. I would just try everything. Cold breathing, try the fire breathing, try the big belly breathing, try the buddy breathing. I can't say one thing is going to work better for one age, because the human mind grows at such an exponential rate. I mean, we didn't even have cell phones 20 years ago. Computers process quicker. Your phone is updated. Your TVs are updated. Your cars update. Kids' brains with the consciousness update so much. So I can't tell you to do it at a certain age. All I tell you is try. And if it works, it worked. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. Try something else if that helped. And please reach out to me so that I can support you into trying it for different ages, if that makes sense. Like, can you imagine a whole entire school where everybody's meditating in the morning, where the loudspeaker, everybody just, I do a lot of, that's another pattern jump. I do a lot of vibrating, saying saying the letter M, because we're atoms vibrating at a high level. And that actually, especially when it comes to superhero kids, special needs kids, whatever people call them, it totally just vibrates everybody down. You should see that when I do an assembly program, 150 kids and the whole room's going, and then we stop, and even the teachers are like, they're feeling everything in their bodies. Okay, I will check a resource. It's been a very motivating session. I appreciate you. What else? What other questions? By the way, too, what's the difference if I say I appreciate it? If I say Fatima, I appreciate it. How do you feel? Got it. Now, what if I say Fatima, I appreciate you? Notice a difference. Maybe start saying I appreciate you to some people instead of I appreciate it, and see the connection. There you go. I mean, it's right up on there. Anything else? Any other questions? Q&A. Ron, how do you know it's in the okay? Oh, I see some other ones. Cool. Ron, can you explain again the mind move up concept once again? Absolutely. Okay, so we have a mind. When you go to sleep and you dream, you don't know where your mind goes. Scientists don't know where your mind is. Your mind is not in your brain. Your mind is anywhere you want it to be. Bruce Lee talks about putting your mind in your fist, and that's how he can go from here to here and generate immense power. So your mind, right now we're talking, so your mind is in your brain. But now drop your mind into your heart. Just put it in there. Like, just, what's your heart thinking? Because your heart has its own actual brain. You can research it. Like I said, Dr. Andrew Armour, ARMOUR, 1991, a Canadian doctor, scientist figured it out. And then now drop into your heart, and maybe now drop into your gut. What could, yes, I got it. So what could your gut be saying to you? Like, think about a decision in your life that you responded with your mind and your brain. And this takes time. I mean, I'm inducing and educating you, okay? Think about a time in your life where your mind was in your brain, and then you made a rash or an immediate decision that didn't turn out beneficial. What if at that moment, when you were about to make that decision, because you thought your brain was your only decision maker, you went like this, took a cold breath, and then asked your heart, what should I do? Your heart would have given you a different answer. You could have asked your gut, what do I do? Your gut would have been like, it's just them being them. They may be having a bad day. Instead of saying what you're about to say, consider giving them a hug. And then it's different. And if you have any more questions, reach out to me.
Ron, thank you so much. You gave some great techniques and strategies for principal leaders to use with their staff as well as their students. And I think that we are always open to those ideas where we can de-escalate a situation, and then really talking about, I love your expression about dropping into your heart and really thinking there in addition to what our mind might be telling us to do. I also appreciate the resources that you shared. NASP, we've got principals on this webinar that are coming in internationally as well as nationally. So I appreciate the pen pal suggestion and letting us know about empatico.org. So thank you for sharing so many great strategies and resources today. And it was just a pleasure to have you open up our Wednesday webinar series for NASP this year.
I appreciate you. I just appreciate the honor of just being able to connect with so many people on such an amazing level. I mean, the captain of the ship is the principal. Everybody looks up to you, and it's challenging. It's not easy managing a lot of people. And anything else I can do to support any way possible, please reach out. I would love to help.
Well, thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us today.
Have a great one, everyone.